I've received a special request from some of my clients in Cape Town regarding the drought, and they asked if it was possible to channel a meditation to invoke rain in Cape Town so that they would have water. And when I got this request, I thought, of course it's possible for us to do this. But you know, we've been doing healing on Cape Town for a while. We've been sending blessings, we've been invoking rain. I think when I was in Cape Town, we were doing a rain dance at some point with the dog. So this is not a new thing. It's been an ongoing thing. We've been working on Cape Town as a drought-stricken area for well over a year now. And when we step back from it and look at it objectively, we know that Cape Town has different pressures to bear, all of which are politically motivated, that is keeping it in a drought position. It's not that they don't have the water, it's that the water is being sold to other African states and is limited in terms of it being distributed in the Cape Town area. So in addition to that, we need rain in Cape Town. We need good old-fashioned rain in Cape Town. But every time I look at it, it feels like the universe is deciding to arrive in Cape Town and then literally blowing that off. Now we all know what that phrase means. It's like I make a commitment to going there and then I blow you off. I change my mind. I move in a different direction. And the result of that is that something or someone gets left, and here's the cliche, people, high and dry. That's how it works. So I got to wondering, why is Cape Town being blown off and blown off and blown off and left high and dry? If I were going, sorry people in Joburg, but if I were going to pick up a city to blow off and leave sitting high and dry, it would be Johannesburg. It wouldn't be Cape Town. So I went to the next level and I see that there is a severe imbalance in Cape Town, just in terms of have and have not, accessibility and inaccessibility, ownership of the property in Cape Town in terms of what is African and what is South African and what is non-African. So all of these imbalances mean that the majority of the people who own Cape Town are not particularly interested in the politics of Cape Town because they are subject to the politics of their own countries elsewhere. Their foreign currency enables them to disregard the political problems in Cape Town, and most of the political problems in Cape Town is that the ruling party is pissed off that the DA has ownership of the city and it has been voted one of the most well-run cities in South Africa, never mind one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So destruction is the name of the game in terms of the ruling party, because releasing national resources is a South African national government responsibility. The sale of those resources for hydroelectric power is a South African national government responsibility, while the government, the local government in Cape Town, is being held accountable. It's one of those divisions of power where nobody wins, and the little man, the man on the street, the consumer, pays the price for other people's power gains. So when I look at healing this, there's a healing of the unreasonable unconsciousness, there's a healing of the accountability levels and the integrity levels, and I am sad to say that the situation in Cape Town is a manifestation of the issues that we have countrywide. I can pray for rain, we can all pray for rain, and even when it rains, it will not be enough. It will not be enough because the game continues and manipulates the circumstances in Cape Town. That national government has made no effort to meet the crisis and even preempt it. We have the capacity in this country to send tankers of water down to Cape Town if that's what's required, very easily. We have an army that could step out into Cape Town in case of a protest march, but hasn't been deployed to meet the drought requirements. So again, national resources are being hoarded while the Cape, the Western Cape as a whole, is left in this deprived set of circumstances. And if you extrapolate that game into worldwide, global activity, you will see it at play everywhere in the world, where the decision makers are not necessarily implementing and being held accountable for the decision. This is the imbalance of power. Setting all of that aside, I still feel that we should put our best foot forward and that we should in fact invoke the rain, that we should invoke tsunami effect so that we all get washed clean, and if possible, because now I get so mad, if possible, Nkandla should be washed into the Zinkwazi Ocean once and for all, along with its fire pool. Current affairs in South Africa keeps us on a seesaw. And as much as we would like to claim to be unique in our suffering, we're not. Governments all over the world are letting people down all the time in 100 million little ways. I love that number. Okay. In addition to that, if you've been reading the news, Hugh Masekela has died. And that is certainly a loss for Africa as a whole, and South Africa specifically. He's a wonderful ambassador for South Africa, and he created beautiful music. There's no question about that. All of the peoples of South Africa have enjoyed his music and his wicked sense of humor, and the fact that he was a fairly decent-hearted human being. So we have reason to feel this loss and even to grieve it, because there are very few people of the old school generation left to show foreigners, to show other countries the original dignity of South Africa, and African men in particular. As racist as that sounds, African men in particular. So today's meditation is focused on two things. One, we want to heal the imbalances of the Western Cape, specifically Cape Town. And two, we want to invoke the rain. We want to invoke a shift in the drought in Cape Town, whether it means it needs to rain a lot, or we need to rain on somebody's parade and cut the cords of their hold on Cape Town as a city, or if it means we need to wake people up to what is going on and how can they shift and change things. I was also watching some of the ESCOM Parliament what are they doing? An investigation? Interviews? Hearings? These things make no sense to me, because it's a lot of people being paid to fly into Parliament to sit around talking and getting nowhere. I mean, if they spent all of that money sending tankers of water to Cape Town, I would be happier. But, you know, this is...
But Brian Molefe has been told to pay back 11 million rand.
Only 11?
Well, he wasn't given the rest yet.
Oh, excellent. It's an 11 year, so let's get back at least that. And that other man from SABC and all of these people who need to pay back the money so it can be invested in the peoples of Africa. But I was listening to this, just like I had seen snippets of the hearings in the US, and occasionally there are hearings in the UK, and I listened to all of these politicians, and I listened to the people employed by politicians, all of them completely and utterly narcissistic, self-absorbed, defending a position that is indefensible because it is so steeped in lies and corruption, and it's so toxic. The scary part is that there are so many people on the planet willing to believe this crap, just absolutely willing to believe this stupidity. Not because they are checking what's going on or they've put it in a context, but because in their consciousness they are so poverty-stricken. They cannot see past their own problems, and so the bigger problems are not their business. As an act of service and as a being service in the world, part of our business is to pay attention, to make a difference where we can, and to add our voices when a louder noise needs to be heard. We talk about this stuff all the time. We talk about there is no such thing as the innocent bystander. We are never innocent. Nobody in the United States right now is innocent. And everybody, for everybody, in every country, karma does in fact come full circle, because we are sending a signal out to the universe, and the universe is responding accordingly. One of the biggest movements that I'm seeing in the world right now is the rise of the sacred divine feminine. Later this year we're going to be doing a lot of work with the divine feminine in terms of Isis, working with Isis again, and working with Kuan Yin, and working with some of the Hindu goddesses. I mean, we've had Kali and Shakti in our sessions, but working with the divine feminine from what we call a tantric perspective. And before everybody goes off at a tangent and does the Oshu thing, let me clarify that in this center, the practice of Tantra, thank you, Lord Husband. Okay. The practice of Tantra is the practice of bringing into balance the masculine and feminine qualities, attributes, values, and energies within self. When we apply that to relationship, we are bringing the qualities of the divine masculine and feminine within self into balance in the relationship with the other in the relationship. So their masculine and feminine and our masculine and feminine is being brought into balance and harmony. When we are doing this in a community or on a universal level, we are bringing the masculine and feminine into balance in our consciousness. Not in individuals, but in our consciousness. So the practice of Tantra is about creating balance in the cosmos, which is the entire purpose of the Lord Husband dancing the Nataraja in every moment. It is the Tantrika that he is dancing to. It is the Tandeva that he is dancing to. It is a rhythm of the universe intended to set a pace, hold divine timing in place, so that all parties may be kept in balance, so that all creation is kept in balance. So a lot of our practice this year is going to be tantric by its nature, which is not, according to the Western bastardized system, about sexuality. Only in the West is Tantra the practice of sexual positions and sexually oriented breathing and the development of an energy system that goes from your base to your crown in order to align your chakras with your partners. Please, let's be very clear about this. When we're working with the tantric energy from a Shiv perspective, you can reduce it to sexuality, or you can experience it where it is as cosmic balance. This is the balance today's meditation wants to bring to Cape Town, because in its own way, the city is completely out of balance. The province is out of balance. The connection between the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape is non-existent. When we divided South Africa into various provinces, we created competition. We created different spaces of different rule so that even this whole country as a nation cannot actually feel connected to each other. When I talk to people in Durban, a lot of them are concerned about the drought in Cape Town because they know specific people in Cape Town. They're not concerned with Cape Town as a city. They're not concerned with Cape Town as a space where South Africans live, because a lot of people say, oh, a lot of foreigners live there. Mostly foreigners own the places there. Why bother? And if you say there's a drought in KwaMashu, they look at you and they think, oh, yeah, no, I didn't hear about that. Never mind, it's okay. Only black people live there. We have all these ridiculous notions of poverty consciousness in our minds that separates us and sets us apart from everybody else. And if you say to exactly those same people, you know that we have water restrictions in Durban, they have no idea what I'm talking about, because those problems do not apply to them. It is as if everybody in South Africa is living in their own isolated bubble. The national problems politically that applies to everybody doesn't apply to them. It's not about them. It doesn't impact on them. They're going on their merry way through La La Land, not realizing that in their unconsciousness, they are supporting an unreasonable unconsciousness. And the mere fact that they do not see how it is about them, that kind of ignorance is enough to keep us stuck. So we have to start shifting on every level. There's the cosmic level, there's the chronos level in terms of where we are as a community and as a nation, and then of course there's the individual level. Inside of us, we have to shift all of the shit that is separating us from each other, because we're in this together. Whether you like it or not, we're in this together. You might even say we're all married to each other. It's all very incestuous when you get down to brass tacks, because we're all related and connected and intertwined with each other in a network that is unraveling as I speak. So, 3 levels of meditation as usual. We're going to focus in on doing personal healing as well as the cosmic healing, so that we're addressing Cape Town and other drought-stricken areas. And we want to invoke a shift in weather patterns. In the midst of that, from the individual straight through to the cosmic, we have a spectrum of flow, so we're hoping to address all of that at the same time. To begin this meditation, I want everybody to choose a shade of blue that you want to work with. Here in the meditation room, we have my lovely Shiv radiating out with energy with various shades of blue. Most of you have seen it. But in your mind's eye, I want you to pick a shade of blue that works for you. And this shade of blue is going to represent several things. It's going to represent the blue of the ocean and the blue of the sky. It represents water as a life force. It represents the blue of Lord Shiv's throat, which takes in all of the poison of the universe and renders us into a balanced space with second chances. It's a way of him wiping the slate clean. Blue is the color of integrity. It is also the color that we use for cooling things, for getting rid of inflamed situations and bringing a cooling and containing energy to things that it may stabilize of its own accord. The highest vibration of blue that we generally use for healing in any circumstances is the indigo of the third eye, and it usually shows up with little sparks of light exactly like a night sky, because it is the chakra most connected to the cosmic intelligence as such. So it's a way of channeling the cosmic intelligence into the unreasonable unconsciousness and awakening people to just random acts of kindness, if not universal compassion. I am willing to settle for less at this point in order to create the more as we grow. The palest shade of blue that we tune into is the aquamarine of the throat chakra, in order to bring truth, to bring clarity, to bring insight, to bring awareness to every situation that we can heal. Whatever the shade of blue, you have to feel it. We cannot heal in words alone. The power of the word is great. It is massively great. It is so great I cannot explain it. But the power of the word must be accompanied by a sincere feeling. So before we even start meditation, I want you all to stop for a moment and imagine that you are living in Cape Town right now. That you are living in any slum area of South Africa where there is no access to water, there's no access to electricity, you don't know whether you will be able to afford your basic food, you may not have a job, and if you do have a job, it pays very little. But more importantly, setting aside all of the limitations and survival mechanisms of the physical plane, I want you to imagine living yourself in a life where you have no time and no energy and certainly no reason to think or feel beyond survival, where love becomes a luxury, where loving someone and having the time to activate that love is a luxury. When you live in a world where the answer to everything is love, and that answer is not available to you, then we are truly living in deprivation. We are fairly blessed here in Durban. We don't live in areas where your children cannot play in the street. They cannot go to the local shop and you'll know that they come home safely. We know the horror stories, but in our minds, we are separate from them anyway. We put on our clothes and we close our doors and we are separate from them. In this room, in this center, we know that we're not. And then we step out of this room and we step back into our lives and we are separate again. But there, by the grace of God, go you. So many people that I love live in Cape Town. And they are surrounded by people who are desperate. Which means that the people I love are feeling inadequate and feeling hopeless in these circumstances, surrounded by that energy, which places pressure on the city as a whole. And if you look at that pressure and you consider it as a high pressure zone that can then be used to induce rain, let us use it. We know that this is what happens, that the pressure in the climate needs to shift, right? This is climatology, this is weather reporting, this is geography, where a high pressure system needs to shift to a low pressure system for it to rain, right? Not a low pressure system moves to a high pressure system. Exactly. Have I got it right? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Why would I get it wrong? Thank you. Sorry. Just checking. So, this is some of the work that you can be doing, where you literally take the pressure of a consciousness as it exists in the city and you bring it down. You lower it. You put blue energy around it and you pull it down into a low pressure system so that it cools. It creates condensation and, of course, moisture. And that's what we need. So we can do that with consciousness. We can do anything with consciousness if we all put our minds to it as consistently and as constantly as the corrupt in this country. And that's the problem. Isn't that so? that the consistency of the corrupt far outweighs the constancy of the compassionate. So let us meditate.